Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twillow Lifestyle Academy's Twillow Fusion event. So this is our fall event, and I am thrilled to be joined with some of our amazing teachers. Today, we are talking about emotional wellness. So I'll just have all of these beautiful ladies introduce themselves. I guess I should tell you who I am first. Tanis Coughlin from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy. And I am a Reiki master, crystal master, and a Celtic shamanic high priestess, as well as a galactic ambassador. And I am joined by Ruth, who's on mute. Still on mute. There we go.
Okay, is that better now? Okay. I can't even do the mute button. Okay, so hi, my name is Ruth Heyerdahl, and I am a teacher at the Twillow Lifestyle Academy and a member of the Twillow Lifestyle Community, and I am a certified essential oil specialist, certified Reiki master practitioner, crystal light and intuitive energy healer with a holistic nutrition background and a total of 3 years of formal education in bioengineering. Because labels are used for what we do, I use the term transformation specialist to describe practitioners like me who use a variety of holistic practices and supportive modalities to support their clients on their journeys of ultimate wellness.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We have a few of those.
Sorry?
We have a few transformation specialists.
We do. I think the whole academy is, the teachers are all transformation specialists.
I think so. I think we have a new title, ladies. We all bring all of our different tools together, right? For transformation for our clients. Awesome. Thank you, Ruth. And Karen.
Thanks, Tanis. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Karen Stillman. I am same participant in this academy and community as Ruth and Tanis, and I'm delighted to be here tonight. I'm now a transformational life coach with my focus with fertility mentor coaching with women who are challenged to have their babies. And I love that. And what I love doing is working with the women in their hormonal challenges. So with infertility, menopause, and anything in between. And I have a lot of energy background as well with the sacred childbirth with Reiki, the Reiki master practitioner, Aqua practitioner, and I have a whole bunch of other programs that I've either done or audited. And I have my other formal background training in obstetrics and gynecology, where I practice as a certified Canadian obstetrician gynecologist for 12 years in Canada. And with my health-related journey, I found all the alternative things served me so much better than the allopathic or the Western modern medicine viewpoint. So this is where I like being the well-being mentor coach or specialist, so that my wellness is a priority and doesn't have to come through the medical means. Although, if I'm in an accident and my leg is cut off, I think I would like that surgery to help make sure that that's okay. But in a lot of other instances, there are so many other things that I can do to help make a shift in my wellness by my mindset. So that's where I put my focus and help women have their babies, because they're struggling and they're challenged and they can do this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Jennifer, please.
Hi, all. Wow. Following all of these amazing ladies, you guys, every time we talk about what y'all do, I'm inspired. So yeah, and I loved what Karen was saying about, Western and Eastern kind of bringing those together. One of the things I say on my website, which is my holistic self-counseling, is, Western psychotherapy meets Eastern energy healing. So who I am, I'm a registered psychotherapist. I'm a certified Canadian counselor. I'm an EMDRIA-approved EMDR practitioner. I'm a certified EFT and TFT practitioner, Reiki master, Aqua master, Nocti practitioner. I feel like I'm just going on.
Well, You know,
Um,
we all have
work with
many hats we're wearing.
Yeah, I work with human design. I'm an ordained minister, a Sufia Kahina, which is basically just high priestess oracle, that kind of stuff. Shamanic light worker, like we are. Spiritual alchemist is the term I like to use, just because it is all about that transformation, as Ruth said. So in a very long-winded nutshell, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I want to say a big hello to Michelle Marie, who's in our audience as well. And she's also playing backstage, by the way. So she's excited for the show today, as we all are. And Michelle Marie is also one of our teachers with the Twillow Lifestyle Academy. And we have quite a few others as well, which will be on our next set of shows that we have in 2 weeks on Friday evening. So tonight's topic, emotional wellness. All right. So let's talk about some of the tools maybe that we use with our clients for emotional wellness. So myself, my big one is always Ho'oponopono. So when people come to me and they've had like a traumatic thing happen, or they've had a trigger, so they've maybe had an burst of anger, I often will ask them, so what is it, like what made you angry? Let's get to the root cause. So I ask them the 5 whys, right? So say somebody lost it in traffic. I ask them, why were you so upset? And pretend the answer was because I was going to be late. Okay. So then I say, well, why does that matter? Well, because if I'm late, the people at the other end are going to be mad at me. Okay. So why does that matter? Well, maybe they won't want to be friends with me. Okay. Why does that matter? Well, I don't want to not have any friends. Okay. Why does it matter? I don't want to be alone. Usually it gets down to a root fear, right? So root fear in that case would be your abandonment. So then I usually ask them, so when's the first time you remember feeling abandoned? And it doesn't really matter if it's chronological. It's whatever the first one is that comes up, because that's the layer that is the first one to work with. And it could be, usually with abandonment, it's parent related. So then I ask them to do the Ho'oponopono on that parent. So I ask them to close their eyes, feel into it, picture the parent's face, and ask them to check in with their body. Usually there's a spot that's tense if they're thinking about somebody that they have some angst with, right? So then we do the Ho'oponopono, and I have them checking in on that spot, because what the Ho'oponopono does is that it actually helps you to release the energy that you're holding in your aura around that, among all sorts of other fun stuff that it does too, but you can feel it in your aura. It actually heals the connection, because we're all connected. We're healing the connections for you to all. And that helps to heal the connection with that person. So I use the Ho'oponopono 4 phrases, and I don't know if we have those backstage, but we sometimes do. They are, I'm sorry, the ones I use. So I use slightly different. Okay, so we'll use these ones today. So I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. And it's just a matter of repeating those until this tension that you feel is released. Okay, so that's one of the things I do with my clients, because really we need to get to the root cause of what's going on. There we go. So, Jen, I know you and I have talked about Ho'oponopono a lot, because I think that you use it with your clients. Do you have a different technique that you use with some of your clients for their emotional wellness? I mean, that's your whole job. Yeah. So let's have you do something there that's, what's the first one? What's the biggest tool that you have in your toolbox related to that?
Self-compassion. The very first thing in my resources that I give every single client, and it's a therapy resources package that I have, and I give it to every client. And the first piece just talks about that this takes time and work. And then it goes right into self-compassion. And I use Kristen Neff and her website and all of her stuff, because she has a phenomenal toolbox of resources for clients to start practicing meditations and all kinds of tools with self-compassion and understanding what it is to bring that in. The next thing that I do is always mindfulness. Can I be present in this moment, allow myself to feel whatever it is I'm feeling, accept it without judgment? And I love that, wow, I'm drawing a complete blank. Sorry, my mind just went completely blank, and it's like huge mindfulness Kabat-Zinn. There we go. Sorry about that. And he says, as if your life depended on it. And I love that little bit on there, right? I really need to be present in this moment without that judgment piece. And it really is as if our life depends on it, because that judgment, that, fact that we need to label, that we need to judge, that we feel like we have to, really kind of classify things in our lives causes us so much suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so those are kind of my first foundational go-tos. Yeah. And I love the 5 whys when I think about so much of the work that we do and diving into, like even with EMDR, one of the things that we look at is we have this situation, right? So I'm upset when I'm driving, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we get kind of that core thought, okay, what is the belief around this, right? And that negative cognition. And then it's like, okay, when's the first time that showed up in your life that you can remember, right? Okay, when's the worst time that showed up in your life that you can remember? Okay, what's a really recent incident, right? And then as we begin the reprocessing, we're actually using those, and it's amazing what the mind connects and brings us through as we process through it. So I wanted to just touch on that because I love that you're doing that with clients, maybe not in the clinical way, but it is such an important piece that we recognize, where things are coming from. And so the other key thing that and we can come back to it later if, I want other people to go, but that I like to talk about as far as like a psychoeducational piece is I love to use the idea of a file room. Our mind is like a file room, right? And I use this a lot when I'm explaining EMDR, but for everything. What we end up doing is, for the most part, memories get filed away. And it's all good, and we don't really worry about it. But when there's something that is really upsetting, really disturbing, traumatizing, whatever it is, that file gets left out. And our brain does it because it wants to keep us safe. The problem is, every single time we go into that file room, which we do for every single experience we have, that file is right there in the forefront, right? And then it begins to impact everything that we experience from that point forward. And we don't always even realize that that's what's happening. Right. And so some education around what the brain does and how the brain works, I find is also very, very helpful because it gives us that ability to kind of step back from our thoughts and feelings and recognize that we can be the observer of them, which I'm sure we're going to get into tonight. So I'm going to just let it go on that one and you can move on.
It's funny that you bring up the file room because I know I used to have days at the office, you've got so much stuff coming at you. This is when I was a manager. So much stuff coming at you, and my boss would be like, how are you doing? I'm like, my files are all over the floor. I have no clue. For me, it was like that overwhelmed feeling that I used to have, right? It was like, nope, my files are all over the floor today. Don't know. So yeah, it's interesting, the same analogy. Karen, what kind of tools do you bring? What's your favorite? SRT maybe?
Well, I have a bunch of tools, and one is the SRT. The first thing, though, I like to point out to people is that, like you mentioned, we are a transmitter. We transmit and we receive, and we have 2 parts of our brain. One is that conscious part that, when Jen was speaking to it, people can be aware of, but the other piece that a lot of people are not aware of is that subconscious piece, where without any logic, no rationale, no sense of humor, no able to discern, every piece of information, every bit of data, room temperature, colors, all sorts of other senses, 2,000 bits of information per second are taken in by all of our cells. So we sometimes don't even have that moment to realize what it is that we have taken in, because so much has happened to us. And
So I have a question for that,
yeah.
Karen, actually. Sorry to jump in, but so if you're sensitive, so if you're like an empath or you're more sensitive, does that mean you're taking on more information?
No, you're just more aware in your consciousness of
Okay.
those pieces of information. So,
Okay, good to know.
so that's the different level of your awareness. You're more tuned into that,
Awesome.
whether you want it to be or not. And so that's where you have more distress potentially if you don't have different tools on how to manage that comfortably for yourself, so that it shows up more as, you know, oh, what's all this other stuff? Why do I feel all this stuff? Why do I notice all this stuff? And that can help you, that realizing that it's not yours, that you're taking on things and are aware of things for other people, as well as that's in the environment, because you're receiving and you're noticing more, and you actually are able to tune into that. So that's the awareness level, and that all of your thoughts turn into feelings. So everything starts with a thought before it becomes a thing. And most people think of, I work on something, I think about it, I plan for it, and then I realize it, and sometimes I don't. But a lot of people don't understand the power of that. So what you think about, you bring about, is kind of a colloquial phrase, and it's so true. Your mind is that powerfulness, and that's why, as Jen said, that mindfulness, when you can take that breath and just notice what's going on, that piece of awareness of just noticing can serve you so well. So you know that your thought happens first, and then it becomes a feeling or an emotion, and we're talking about emotional well-being. And that feeling and emotion is what leads you to what actions you will take. So that's where you're going back with your questions of 5 layers of why, so that you see why you have the result. And when you realize that that subconscious part of your brain that has no sense of humor, can't be logicked, rationalized, explained out, it accepts, it has to, it is, and that it's 30,000 times more powerful than your conscious mind, that when you can remove some of the thought patterns that have served you as safety, as Jen explained, these thought processes are there to keep you safe. And they have at one point, but now they're no longer serving you. That's why you have this new discontent, this new distress, this new dis-ease in your body, whether it's a full-on medical condition or symptom, or whether or not I just don't feel right. Something's off. And the subconscious release technique is a breath technique where you take your breath and hold it. Well, your brain's going, whoa, you stop breathing. That's my job. And you're saying, quite calmly, I know, but while you're there, can you remove my negative emotion or my block with a positive emotion, with the phrase that I've discerned with my coach, who's energy tested in my energy field, what phrase? Because we speak what our programs are, because our language comes from our thoughts, and our thoughts are just telling everybody what our beliefs are. And some you can test and show that they're weak, and some aren't weak. And when you find a weak program, some weakness in your energy field, that doesn't mean you don't logically, rationally, wholeheartedly believe it, but there is, okay, let's just say it's one of your 37 trillion cells still strongly believes that. Well, we want to pull that out of your energy field, out of your system. And so when you hold your breath, your subconscious is really woken up and turned on and saying, whoa, you're going, oh yes, and please remove all anxiety with, I can't stand it when he says this, or whatever the phrase is, or nobody loves me, if you're having anxiety, or whatever the phrase is for you.
So I'd like to talk a little bit about programming, because you brought up programming.
Thoughts,
right?
Belief patterns, limiting, or some belief patterns serve you well, like that automatic ability to, drive your car and get you home when you're exhausted and you don't know how you got there. And some beliefs are limiting, and they really were keeping you safe, but no longer keep you safe. Like, well, I'm not going to go out and find a new partner because all the men I've dated so far have really let me down. So, I'm not meant to have a partner, or, God doesn't want me to have a love of my life, or whatever the phrase is that I've pulled in. I may not be aware that I'm nursing and rehearsing it I may only say it infrequently, but when you have a conversation with somebody and saying, what would you love to change in your life? Or what do you, love to see different in your life? So you have that vision of what that positive piece is, then we can find the bits that aren't serving you to get to that positive result that you would love to have. And those thought patterns or programs, limiting beliefs, the phrases are interchangeable. You just pull them out like you're pulling tissues out of a box.
Like the file folders that Jen has.
Yeah.
Pull out those file folders, put them in the recycle.
On the floor, you're just throwing them out the window and they're gone for good.
Put them in the recycle.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah.
And Ruth, what are some of your favorite tools that you use?
There we go. That's a really good question.
Well, if we talk about essential
I
oils, those are pretty powerful tools.
Yes. And I've been dealing with somebody who actually came, this whole thing, I can sit and listen to you guys talk all night. So,
but we need your knowledge and wisdom too.
But so the essential oils, I was actually talking to somebody the other day who has trauma associated with grief. And so there are 3 essential oils that I just love for trauma of any kind, but especially grief, and they work really well together. So it's I have to breathe.
Breathing is important. So this is also a very good wellness thing. Breath.
Yes, you taught me that.
In fact, Astrological Tarot says, I love breath work, especially pranayama. That's a specific type of breath work.
Yeah. So, so cypress, I love, it's, the botanical name is Cupressus sempervirens, and it helps heal shock and trauma. It heals the emotions. It deals with grief, despair, and it's very calming and grounding. So I love cypress for that. And then I also add to it my favorite essential oil, which is rose essential oil. And rose is very good for heart healing emotionally. And
it vibrates over 300.
Yes, and it's very uplifting, and it's very good. So it is, sorry, breathe.
There's a comment here. I'm waiting for Ruth to say a long chemical or process I have to Google, and then bingo, the Latin name for cypress. That didn't take too long. You're amazing, Ruth.
Well, and then, well, botanical names are important because there are some essential oils that go by the same kind of common name, but they have different chemical makeups and different safety concerns and different ways that you can use them, different properties. So, for example, lavender, there are 3 types of lavender that we use, well, 2 especially, but one, of course, is true lavender. So that's Lavandula angustifolia. Okay, you want all these terms?
I love that you have them at the top of your tongue.
Isn't that scary?
And that you can pronounce them, because I don't even know if I can pronounce them.
And then spike lavender is Lavandula or latifolia. So the Lavandula means that they're both the same family, but they are different plants and they have different safety concerns. So that's just why I use the botanical name.
That's awesome.
And so rose, now you've got me self-conscious.
No,
Rosa
you're doing
extremacena.
awesome.
So, and rose helps with depression. It helps. It's a CNS a central nervous system sedative, so it helps calm everything. It's very good to help with sleep as well. And I think a couple weeks ago or last time we had a question of for night terrors and um, to trauma. So I think this blend would work really well with the cypress, the rose, and the I could be wrong, but um, cypress.
No, you're the specialist.
Okay, thank you. Okay, but essential oils are subjective. Like everybody reacts differently to certain essential oils.
Right.
And for example, how many like lavender? Yeah, I don't. So, and I have someone who, I have a friend who she says she's allergic to lavender. So she will put, she wanted me to make her a blend without lavender for sleep. So that was easy. I could do it. But I made her a stock blend, and which is a lot of drops of essential oils. And I gave her one drop. I forgot who I was making it for, and I put one drop of lavender, Lavandula angustifolia, in the stock blend of
So
over 100 drops.
I just want to say she wasn't really allergic. She just didn't like it.
No, she was not allergic to it. She just really hated it. It was a trauma response. I think her grandmother, who used to beat her, loved lavender. So it was just
That'll
not
do
a
it.
good
That would
thing.
be one of those programs,
Yes.
Karen, we were talking about.
Yes, and it's one of the aromatherapy, like scents is one of our strongest scents, our triggers. Senses. I can't
Trigger
speak
senses.
either. One of our strongest senses, because it goes straight to the brain.
Right.
All the other senses go through detours before they actually get to what we're looking for. So,
So essential oils are a great way to manage the emotional aspect of things.
Yes, and I have a friend who has okay, I wasn't supposed to say because I've totally forgotten it.
Okay.
But anyway, so it was like the princess and the pea, because this friend
Okay.
with the one drop of lavender, she smelled it and said, "Oh, lavender! Wow!" And I went, "That's one drop. There's like 185 drops of essential oil in here." So for the blend for the trauma, it's cypress rose. There's no lavender in it, and frankincense. And frankincense is, this is one. There are 3 that we use, or 2 that we use. So Boswellia carterii is very good for grounding, healing the heart. And yeah, so I think I've talked long enough.
Okay then. So we do have a few questions coming in. So we could, perhaps you can give your 2 cents worth, or 5 cents worth, 10 cents worth on these questions, ladies. We want to say a big shout out to Shelley and Dodd from Jamaica, and Anne Eva, and Parman. So all of you, welcome. We have questions. So tonight we're focused on emotional wellness. So the question should be around that. If you have a question around emotional wellness, please add that. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. So the one that we have here that's emotional wellness would be Parman. So Parman says, "Hi ladies, I'm dealing with a pandemic burnout. Any thoughts on how to keep a calm attitude when people are slamming into you in stores? P.S. me understanding that other people are also stressed doesn't seem to calm them down. Thanks for being here. No, it won't calm them down. What it does is help you and how you're sitting in that energy, right? Jen, maybe you'd like to speak to that a little bit, how she can keep herself out of the other people's energy. I know tubing is a great one in terms of the energy piece. But maybe you've got some other tools that you'd like. And if you need ideas on tubing, we can talk about that in a minute. But how about we hear from Jen on this one?
Sure. Yeah, so tubing for sure. I think my first question in all of this is, what are you doing for your own self-care? What are you doing in order to deal with the burnout piece that you're experiencing? Because that's going to make all the difference when it comes to dealing with other people. And I hear you. You walk into a store, we're used to everybody staying away, trying to go down different aisles where there isn't anybody. And now people are just right back to being in our personal space, bumping into us, and all of that. And, I think that we can deal with some things on our own level, just kind of dealing with our own fears and what's coming up for us to be able to handle that and navigate that. But on an energetic level, like Tana said with the tubing, for sure, Reiki, energy medicine, they all have really great tools for actually building out your aura. So much so that I've shielded things so people don't see them with Reiki. I've put bubbles around me so that people just don't get close. They feel that energy, they bounce right off of it, they move away. So there are different tools that you can do if you want to work on it from an energy perspective. But even if you do that, working on your own stuff, what's coming up for you? What are the fears? How are you handling the burnout? What are you doing to really take care of yourself as we move back into this world that people are, wanting to get back to normal, which is a whole other issue right now, right? As a society, things are moving again. They're opening again. People are going back into work and doing stuff more. They're being called on to show up more and things like that. And I think, just because there is this kind of push for that, as individuals, a lot of us aren't really ready for that and aren't really prepared for going back into that. And there's a lot of people who don't want to. Right? And so we have to find within ourselves, what do I want and how can I honor what's right for me in this moment? And personally, I hear you with the store thing, and I will do that I won't go down an aisle if there's a ton of people in it. I will skip it and move on to the next one. And then when all those people move on to the next one, I'll go back to it. Right? And I find very simple ways like that of avoiding it. I know if I drive I'm also highly sensitive. If I drive into a parking lot and it's full and it takes me any time to find a parking spot, I'm out. I will come back later. And I have to, because I know that unless I'm really self-cared through the window, have been grounding, have been doing my meditation work, have been doing all of that, I know I'm not probably going to be able to get through that store without feeling burnt out just from the experience. Right? And so I think a big piece in all of this too is know yourself. One of my favorite quotes, know thyself. Right? And then to thine own self be true. Nobody else is going to do that for you. You have to honor you. And that's really kind of my foundational, how I would handle it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And Ruth, would you use the same oils as what we were discussing? The cypress, rose, and frankincense? Oh, I think you're still on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello? Yeah?
Hello.
Okay. Hi, I'm back.
So would you use the same oils for burnout?
They would definitely work. But I would also use geranium,
Mhm.
and let me see, where's um, geranium and Roman chamomile. Geranium is really good for anger, anxiety. It's a really calming oil. It works good for depression, um, endurance, fatigue, mental fatigue. It helps with mental clarity as well. And then if you add Roman chamomile, which is anxiety, it's calming. It's good for anxiety. It helps with despair. It's very grounding. And I would probably throw in a little bit of frankincense with that. So like, and I'm talking like a drop or two. And
Awesome.
frankincense is good for depression, grief. And you could also throw a drop of rose in there too, because there is grief and trauma involved, right? So,
Yeah, the pandemic has certainly been traumatic
yeah.
for a lot of people.
And I usually use only 3 essential oils per blend, but if something is really ingrained, I will use 5 because essential oils are like people. They work better together as a team, and they are all good in what they do separately. It's like Twillow Lifestyle Academy.
It is.
They're really, it just hit me. So they work really well individually. They know their jobs. They do really well, but you put them together, and they have a synergy and are really they work really well. So and
Awesome.
you don't have as much risk. You don't run as much risk as becoming oversensitive to one of the essential oils.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. And Karen, what kind of things do you think your tools would help with for burnout?
A lot of the self-care items that Jen spoke to are great. And then when you're in that moment where you're doing work, or maybe you haven't, but you find yourself all of a sudden immersed in a situation where it's like, oh my goodness. If you don't have any of the other things at your fingertips, the one thing that you always have with you and never stops is your breath. So pranayama, as Michelle Murray mentioned earlier, is the practice of breath regulation. Pranayama is the life force energy. And when you think about it, when you don't breathe, you don't live, right? We can make it faster, make it slower. Some yogis can make it really slower, but you can't turn on or turn off your breath. And so that's quite fantastic, but we can manipulate that. So there's, and the yama is the regulation or the control thereof. So when you practice, there's different methods of doing that. There's probably 6, 7, maybe 8 different ways to practice breath. And what we want to turn on is the rest, digest, parasympathetic system. So you calm the body because you're in that freeze, fight, and flight mode where you're kind of have that short, faster breath. Your inhales may be longer. You're not, perhaps if you're having that some hypersensitivity, anxiety going on. So if you just think, okay, I can slow my breath down, and if you have to count and cue yourself verbally out loud. In 1, 2, 3, and if that's all you can do at the time, hold for 1, out, 1, 2, 3. Make them even. The out doesn't need to be longer. Just make them even. So that's kind of a rectangle breath. There's all sorts of other fancier breaths that you can do to calm the body that have more involved procedures, but that's a simple one. So just getting that inhale and noticing it. Okay, this is, I'm feeling that hum of that situation, and in 1, 2, 3, or as long as you can count, and then hold for 2 counts or 3 counts. whatever your body, you know how long you can hold your breath for. Not that you're holding it an extended long period of time, but what's comfortable. So, I mean, I know I can do comfortably because I've practiced different formats of pranayama that, you know, I can do ins of 10, hold for count of 5 to 10, and outs for 10, holding it out for a count of 5 to 10. So most people holding it, inhaling for 4, holding it for 1 or 2, letting it out for 4, and holding it out for 1 to 2 is enough to get you with 3 to 4 of those breaths to get you realizing, okay, and then you notice that, okay, with that next one, I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to relax my forehead and focus on my jaw, drop the tongue like I'm dropping my shoulders, and then you'll feel better in the moment. And that takes all of 30, 40 seconds. So it's something you can do just right then. And then having in your back pocket some affirmation, something that is positive for you to use as a mantra. So you can use your Ho'oponopono, or you can use I am calm in all situations. Now, you may not feel it, but if you say that out loud to yourself often enough, you will start to believe it. You may not feel that in the moment or two, but you know, you might realize that, you know, 5 minutes later, it's like the combination with what you have at your disposal can really make a difference. So try the different bits and pieces. See what works for you.
So fake it till you make it with the mantras.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
A couple of crystals too, Parman, that might help would be lepidiolite. Lepidiolite is a nice purple one like this. Very, very calming. It's like nature's Valium. And, you know, when we're out in the stores and stuff, we have energy coming at us all the time. And so another one that's helpful for that, to kind of shield you from other people's energy, would be a black tourmaline. Okay. Or a selenite, for instance. Selenite, do I have one here? Yeah. Something like this. Sorry about the noise. So those guys can be really good. Selenite actually transmutes the energy, whereas black tourmaline will sort of block the other energy. So they have a slightly different. So if you made up like a little medicine bag, for instance, with those 3 in it, so lepidiolite, selenite, and black tourmaline, and carried it with you permanent, that would help with all of that other stuff not getting to you in the same way. Okay. So I hope that's helpful. She did have a side issue saying, any thoughts on how long it will take us to get back to normal? This behavior was not normal 3 to 4 years ago. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but my thought is we are never the same person 2 days in a row. So really, there is no normal. This is we will not be the same as we were. It's just not. It's not where we're at. The whole vibration of the earth is raising, and that is changing. It's bringing everybody's stuff up to be cleared because we're going in a better direction. It doesn't feel like it right now, but we really are. We're clearing a bunch of stuff as a collective. So, you know, that's what my thoughts are on normal. Like, I don't know that. I mean, maybe we have a set normal for ourselves, but I really don't think there's a set normal for the collective. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Don't know about the normal piece because that's a relative statement. For me, it's going back. As you said, we're always evolving. So if you think about a plant, a tree, you don't want to go back. You're going to create a new, you're going to grow a new branch. You're going to, you know, develop more, develop different. And it's what would you like to develop into? What would you like to see? If some of the same characteristics is what you would love in your thought process to see as your new normal, or just me now and my future. I have I've cleared this phrase new normal, and it's like, because normal is it's like the word perfect, you know, it's progress. So it's, to me, it's, you know, where would I love to be? What would I love to have? How would I love to be able to behave and act and feel like? What is the encompassing, you know, ideal me navigating through this? So think about who it is that you'd like to be. So what would those characteristics be? You know, have a list of 3 to 5, maybe even 10, and then, lean into that. Because if you don't know what you would love to become and how you would love to behave for you to evolve into your well-beingness or your wellness. So, take a few minutes to think into that, and so that you can create that.
Okay. Jen, did you want to chime in on that one, or?
Sure. I love, Gabor Mate just came out with a book, and it's The Myth of Normal. And I love that he really addresses this idea that we have a concept of normal because of the way that our society needs to define everything, but that there actually is no normal. And, we think about, and one of the things that he talked about, which I think really applies here, is this idea that our culture, our society, it's this systemic thing, and it has a way of continually bringing itself back to where it wants to be and finding a way to sustain itself. The problem with that is, if you think about like a pendulum, right? You have that pendulum, and at some point it gets pulled, right, to one side, and it stays there for a while. Well, it doesn't just swing right back. It goes to the other side, and then it comes back and back. And it might not land here again. And because the world is changing as much as it is, even what's holding that string is now changing, and it's moving. And so will it ever land back where it was? No. Is that a bad thing? No. Right? And so this idea of getting back to normal is going to be a little bit different for all of us too, depending on what we've gained as we've gone through this process, and maybe what we've lost as we've gone through this process, because each one of those experiences is impacting us. And, as we think about it, even to Kathleen's question as well, like, when will this trouble be over? And I'm not sure exactly which trouble is being spoken of, but just even looking at it from a world perspective, I have on my website, and I love this. It's a quote from Rumi, and I love Rumi and all that he kind of teaches us about the depth and the truth of who we are, well beyond this 3D form and all of that. But it basically says, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself. And I find this to be the biggest thing. If we are constantly looking outside of ourselves for things to get better or for things to change, we will be looking forever for that. But if we can go inside and we can look at ourselves and we can go, how do I ground into me? How do I become my own best advocate? How do I love me beyond measure? Everything around us will change because we are changing and evolving and growing.
And really, our perception is our reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
So will we ever perceive things in the same way? Probably not, because it's changed our perspective, right? So I hope that answers your question. I want to say a big hello to Tracy, who says it's amazing how these oils work as depressants and stress relievers. Yes. And Kathleen Connor, who has a question, and hers was, when will this trouble be over? And we also had one earlier that we kind of missed here. So Shelly Ann, we said hello to. And your question, when I muscle test on that, I got a no. But it's about listening with your heart, okay? So listen with your heart about that. Will he give you the house? Because you just need to be in flow. Because really, it's going to reveal your radiance. There's going to be a better situation coming. All right? So I got a no. I don't know whether you guys felt into that. Does anybody else feel anything about that one?
I don't know that it's going to be a yes or a no in the sense of will he give it to you, so much as you might not end up wanting it.
That's what my feeling was.
Possibility as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, as I feel it, I do feel that no, but I don't necessarily know if it's a wall that is put up for your own protection or if it's something that you're going to decide. That
Hmm.
I don't know.
That's kind of what I felt too. So I didn't want to let that just kind of go without us responding to it. It's not really in our category today, but that was my feeling
But
on
bringing
it.
it back to emotional well-being, because I can bring everything back to that, right? We know the right path for us when we let go of the external expectation and feel into it for ourselves. And
Yeah.
so, one of the things that we often do is we actually limit what is available to us because we have something that we are so strongly focused on. And in doing so, we actually miss other opportunities. There's a meme out there, and I love it. And I talk to my clients about it too. And it's this cat, and he's sitting in a cat carrier. And like those plastic cat carriers, right? And he's sitting there and he's staring at the door of the cat carrier. So he's inside and staring at it. And it says on it, if you focus if you focus too much on the problem, the solution may evade you. The top of the carrier is off, and all he has to do is look to the side and he can jump right out of the cat carrier. Right? And so what happens is we end up so focused on this one thing that we often miss what's really there for us. Right? And coming back to Rumi, you are the universe in ecstatic motion, and the universe wants to supply for you. Open up, feel into it, see where you get led, and you're going to know where you're supposed to go next.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And did Ava end up asking a question? I didn't see a question from her. We had said to her she could ask. In the meantime, Kathleen Connor, when will this trouble be over? Kathleen, I think we might need a little bit more information on that, just in terms of, are you talking personal trouble? Are you talking global trouble? What are we talking about in terms of trouble? And trouble in a sense really is it really trouble, or is that our perception of what's going on? So when we look at the emotional part of things, maybe it's the perception.
And I just need to mention Michelle's comment because I freaking love Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Oh, yeah.
So that reminds me of Truman Capote on the Breakfast at Tiffany's, and he says, it may be normal, darling, but I'd rather be natural. And it is such an important piece because, and I think, Tanis, we've even talked about this on Twillow Talk and all too, this idea that we get so caught up in wanting to fit in, wanting things to be what we perceive as normal, wanting them to be what is societally acceptable, wanting it to be whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we end up doing is we basically give away our authentic self.
Yeah.
And now we no longer act in a way that is in line with our values, is in line with who we want to be. And instead, we just, become these drones, right? I think of that song from Weeds, but little boxes, right? Like we end up just kind of fitting these molds as opposed to being naturally, authentically who we are, the good,
Mm-hmm.
bad, and the ugly. I think, that shadow piece, like we really
Yep.
need to work on embracing all of what we are to really be naturally who we're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. And when we're judging ourselves, are we judging by our own, or are we judging by society and what society says, right? So there's that piece too. Whose rules are we using to determine our rightness or our wrongness or our goodness or our badness? That's the other piece. So I agree. And authenticity is a piece that it plays a big role. If we're not in our own authentic self, that's when you start to get anxiety and stuff coming up, right?
Absolutely.
So
when you're not aligned with that.
yeah.
And a challenge is that sometimes because of societal norms, school norms, other norms, not that it's normal, norms being what's perceived as okay by different groups or populations, could be even your family. There's a whole variety of them. And if you've never sat down and asked yourself, what would I love? That's why, as Jen spoke to, that's the simple question that you can start with and just lean in to see, I don't know what I would love. Have you ever taken the time to ask yourself that? Not what you can do based on your bank account, your education, your race, what your mother said, what your partner says, because I have kids, your education. You let all of that go. Those are all limitations, conditions, circumstances that all can be changed. What would I love? What would they love? What would I love? Not what society says. What would I love? Not what culture says. What would I love? Just really that authentic, true you. Because in my yoga teacher training when I was in Rishikesh, the yogi, has PhD in yoga, is teaching us and tells us that dynamic health and vitality is your birthright, as well as your true nature is blissful, joyful, loving, and fearless. And if that's the case, look at how far we have come away from that, and what is telling us not to be there. Yes, there's some safety things in North America. You don't talk to strangers. But if me at now 54 as of yesterday, didn't talk to strangers, I wouldn't be able to advance my business and my career, and I couldn't serve and help other people. So there's, perhaps a time and a place, but it's not an all or none. Oh, Candace, are you muted? Did I do something?
I am. Our lives are really painted in shades of gray, right? It's not really, I don't know very much in our lives that's really black or white. Everything is really beautiful shades of gray.
No, I love Shakespeare, and I love my quotes, obviously. But nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
Yes.
Right? And we can even get into, okay, yeah, but what about abuse? And what about murder? And what about this? And what about that? And the reality is there are bad things that happen. We all go through things. And I can speak from a place of going through trauma, coming out the other side. And I know that there's a part of me that could hold on to it and say, that was really bad. That was horrible. And I can stay in that place of victimhood, and I can stay in that place of pain. Or I can say, yeah, that was a really shitty experience, but I am out of it. I came through it. I'm on the other side of it, and I can see that light. And I can now be whoever I want to be despite my trauma, not because of it.
Yeah, exactly. And Michelle is saying, yeah, we change when we tire of suffering.
Yes. Well, there's the challenges. It's not if they're going to come, it's when. It's how we respond rather than react. And you choose suffering and misery, along with however long you decide to work with your challenges and move through it or stick with it.
Yeah, and I think that that goes back to the drama triangle thing, right? So when we're doing the drama triangle, we often will get caught. This is a human thing, so don't be hard on yourself if you get caught in this, because we all do. We get caught in playing one of three roles, right? The victim, the villain, or the hero. And sometimes we're doing all three at the same time to different people, right? So, and Jen and I have talked about being that silent observer. So instead of being caught in that drama, being up here and going, look at those roles I was playing. I don't think I want to do that anymore. And that's how we sort of pull ourselves out of some of that stuff. And I think it's a great, it's simple, not easy.
Yes.
Okay. It's simple, but not easy, because it is part of our programming.
And we do get caught up in it. And, going right back to the beginning, like Karen was saying, with that conscious part of us and that unconscious part of us or subconscious part of us. When I think of it even from a human design perspective, right, it talks about how we were conditioned with certain things at the time of our birth, and those are the things that we're more conscious of. But then we were also given things 3 months before our birth, and those are the aspects of ourselves that we're unconscious of. And so when we look at that and we say, okay, wow, like this has been playing in my mind all of this time, and I didn't even realize this aspect of myself was here, right? And then the other piece of it is it looks at the 9 centers that we have in our body and all of the gates and everything else. But anyway, that's a whole other topic for another day. But
Human design plays into a lot of our emotional
right.
well-being.
But what it shows us is those areas that are not defined, we are completely susceptible to conditioning in. And so what ends up happening is we live these not self lives that are not who we are, but who we think we are because of all of this conditioning, right? And until we actually take the time to decondition ourselves, like Karen was saying, and things like oils from Ruth and crystals and all of that really can be tools that we use to help us with that process. But ultimately, we have to recognize that it's there in the first place. And if we don't recognize that we have this conditioning, then we don't realize that that's what's impacting us as we move forward, right? And so when we look at emotional well-being, but if I have the conditioned belief that I'm only valuable for what I can give to somebody else, what does that do to me? I will run myself ragged. I will commit to more than I can handle. I will beat myself up if I don't think I did it well enough or showed up the way that I could have. If anybody gives even the slightest bit of discomfort or disapproval or anything else in what I've done, I'm going to take the brunt of that. I'm going to own it, and I am going to berate myself and beat myself up for it because of this conditioned belief that my value comes from having to do for others. Right?
Well, that's a big crux for a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. So we do have a couple of questions. Well, not so much questions, I guess. Tracy has asked for a general reading. So I will just step into that if that's okay. If anybody else wants to pull cards as well, you're welcome to join me. So we'll do a little bit of some readings here. So anybody that is on and that would like a reading, we've had a discussion about emotional well-being, so that's kind of our big topic for this evening, but we can certainly step into other areas if there's something that is really stressing you, because that is connected to your emotional well-being. So Tracy, if you're still on, I have actually that you're going to be taking action towards a fresh start. Okay. Don't worry, you do have the courage to do this, to jump over that wall. Okay. Because really on the other side, you're going to be soaring into joy, and it's going to so exceed your expectations. There's so much growth, light coming in. Okay. So this big change for you, it feels a bit like partnership of some kind. So changing a partner. I don't know how you guys feel. Anybody else feel that as well? Or anybody else want to put anything in there? I think that you're in a stage of growth anyway, Tracy. There's a real growth, spiritual growth, emotional growth that's happening for you at this time. So feel into that. And just know that you have the courage. You're not alone. Your guides are there to help you. And, you know, as long as you're following your heart, you're gonna find your way in this new change. But you do have to take action if you want change. Okay. Anyone
I didn't
else?
have my cards with me. I thought I did. I apologize. But it was interesting as you were going through yours, some of the things that came up for me was that in the beginning of this, you might feel very alone. But that card that Tanis played where you have the strength and the ability to jump over, you weren't alone. And you can notice in the card, the person isn't the one even doing the jumping, the horse is. So you're going to have support, and you are not alone at all in this. You're actually going to be carried over it. And I think that that is going to be, again, don't try to figure out how or limit how. Just be open to what shows up to help you move through it. And if you do that, then yeah, all of that growth is going to be possible on so many levels.
Awesome. Karen, did anything come for you? Not today? Ruth? You're on mute.
There.
There we go.
Why is that so hard?
It's Zoom.
Anyway,
Well, actually, in this case, it's not Zoom, but anyway,
it's me.
it's all good. StreamYard.
So yeah, no, I'm just confirming what you said. I don't have the cards with me right now, but so I can't add to it, but yeah.
You got confirmation on that
It
as
just
well?
feels right, yeah.
Okay.
Goosebumps.
Awesome. Goosebumps. Yeah, that's always a good tell, isn't it? Yeah. Awesome. So we are taking questions, anything around emotional well-being. And, I think that we can continue our conversation. I like to address the questions as they come in. So we don't want to wait too long for that stuff. So, here we go. George Martin. Hi guys, I'm afraid I come with bad news. Oh, I lost a close friend of mine and my partner. I'm so sorry, George. So we're sending you lots of love and light. Are you getting support? That would be my question for you. I reach out, okay, to people that can help you, your friends and family. In terms of crystals, jet or Apache tear, really good for grief. You need to know that's not your fault for some reason. It's not your fault. And I feel like that they were a partner in numerous ways for you. So it's going to take you a little bit to sort of get over this. So just be really gentle with yourself. Lots of self-care. Jen, do you have any specifics that you tell your clients around that? And then maybe we can get the oils for grief, if there's anything specific.
I don't know if you do journaling or not, but definitely going through with somebody who can be there, who can be a safe space for you, who can support you as you go through this process. But there is a book out there that you can get, that you can journal with, if that's something that would help you. And it's called How to Carry What Can't Be Fixed. And it's a journal for grief. And it's a beautiful thing because it really does walk you through the process of honoring the person or that which you've lost, and allows you to really bring love both to what you've lost and to yourself as you go through that process. But ultimately, when we go through grief, actually, let me back up for a second. Gabor Mate said that trauma is not what happened to us. It is when we go through that alone, when we feel like we have no resource and nothing there to help us. And so we can go through really significant hardship if we're not alone. If we have those around us who can support us and who can help us. So exactly what Tana said, I hope that you are reaching out and that you are getting support. If you have other friends, family, anybody around, find somebody who's a professional who can sit with you and hold that space for you and allow you to process those feelings. Because if you do try to go through that alone, what we end up doing is we bottle it up and we go, I can't deal with it now. And then it becomes, well, I haven't dealt with it yet. I don't feel like dealing with it. And then it becomes, okay, well, it's just going to sit here. But it never just sits here. It comes up in everything that we do. So take the time that you need to grieve. Honor that. Loss is painful, and we have to honor that emotion because that pain is a messenger. And it wants the message to be received and heard, but it doesn't want you to hold on to that message forever. The whole point of a message is that you receive it, you deal with it, and then you let it go. So take the time that you need. And, when we lose people that we love, people that we're close to, we need to honor the grief that comes with that. And we need to honor the place that they've had in our lives. And I don't know what your belief is about where people go, if they go anywhere after, but I believe in the oneness of all things. And so also understanding that what is lost here is never truly lost. And so, again, if that's not what you believe, then that's okay. But if you do, honoring that and bringing that into your practice as well of grieving and working through can be very, very powerful.
So I actually picked a couple of cards from a deck that is Talking to Heaven, is what it's called. And a couple of things came through, interesting ones. And these are messages from Eric for you, George, okay? I'm sorry. Please forgive me. It's not your fault. Remember I said that? It came up. It's not your fault. Okay? And he's been visiting you in your dream. So, dream time. He wants you to know he's with the rest of the family and his pets. Okay? So, he's not alone, and nor are you. My beliefs is that it's energy, and they do come. I'm a medium, so, that's where I got the other thing from. The biggest thing is it's not your fault. You couldn't have done anything to change what happened. Okay? You need to know that. We have soul contracts, and we get to a certain spot, and that's where our soul contract is. So just know that. Okay? It's not your fault. Ruth, is there anything specific in oils for grief that we maybe haven't spoken about already?
I think the one that I spoke of earlier, the frankincense, the rose, and the cypress,
Mm-hmm.
in a 10 ml roller bottle, I would put 3 drops of cypress, 1 drop of rose, maybe 2 if it's not too strong for you, and 2 drops of frankincense. Rose is very strong, and also, yeah, just 1 drop of rose, because it can be very floral if you put in 2 roses.
And if you're not familiar with that, then you fill it up with a carrier oil, they call it.
Oh yes, with yeah, I use jojoba wax. You can use fractionated coconut oil. It just doesn't. Fractionated coconut oil just does not nurture or nourish the skin as much as any of the other carriers. And you can also make yourself an inhaler. You knew I was going to pull these out, right? So, yeah, an inhaler, and you can just add a cotton wick inside, add the oils to the inside, and then put the butt on. I don't have it here, but anyway, put the bottom on, and then you just unscrew it, and then just breathe per nostril as many times. And that way it'll go straight to the brain, to the heart. And,
Awesome.
yeah.
Good. Also, any crystals that are green, they work with the heart chakra. So like a green calcite can help with some of that heart pain of loss. Okay.
Ooh.
So, yeah. So we have Summer who is asking a question about being depressed and looking for some guidance on how to deal with change. Like her parents not being here anymore, things just not being the way they were. So have you guys got any hints for her? And I'll grab some cards for her, but while you guys are chiming in on that.
I don't know if Karen wants to share, or I can as well. But I would just say, we tend to be pulled like waves, right? If you've ever sat in the ocean, you feel the wave coming in, you feel the undertow pulling you back out, and we fight it. We fight the emotion, we fight the things that we've labeled as bad emotions, the experiences that we don't want to have. And in fighting them, we end up suffering, right? But if we're able to, as Tana showed on the card, go with the flow and allow ourselves to feel the wave, right? To really have the experience, then we can come out the other side. But as long as we're fighting it, we're going to be suffering. And I think about, and I don't know if anybody's ever done this, I tried to surf once. Okay, it was just, I can't do it. I acknowledge that.
You're brave though.
Yeah. But one of the things is the moment you try to force yourself through, you can't do it. And you get stuck. And it's very much like that, right? We get these tough emotions and these tough experiences, and then we just decide, I don't want this. So we deny it, or we try to push ourselves through it, or we try to just, whatever, right? And then we end up defining our happiness by all of these thoughts and all of these things, right? So, well, I was happy when, and I'll be happy if, as opposed to right here, right now, how can I find my joy? What in me can bring that joy back, right? Because I don't know if you've ever read anything like The Happiness Trap. One of the examples that they gave in there is they had 2 rooms. And in one room, they put a bunch of people in and they said, all you got to do is just be happy. Okay. Just spend your time being happy. And in the other room, they were like, just do your thing. Whatever. Which room do you think was happier? Not the one who was told to be happy. Right? Because as soon as we think that happiness is something outside of us, or something that we have to achieve, or something that is even, something else, period, it becomes something that we can't obtain. But if we are just authentically being ourselves, riding the waves, going with, right now I'm suffering. And in that, I also have this memory. And there's happiness in that memory. And I'm experiencing both of these things at the same time. Okay, like Thich Nhat Hanh says, we have all these emotions happening at once. Which one are we going to grab hold of? Right? Which one are we going to focus on? And so, yes, there is sadness here, and there is grieving because, and even, going back through, but in this case with your grandparents being gone, life is different, right? And it's not the same, and there's sadness in that, but I still have these memories and I still have these experiences, and I want to honor that. And maybe I want to go do X, Y, and Z to honor that. And that brings me joy, right? So it's not about finding happy. It's about finding you in all of this.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I've got some cards for you here. And a big hello to Annie. Good to see you. And so you are protected. This is for summer. So you are protected, okay, from all types of harm. And there are some changes, but know that you're not alone, okay? Archangel Michael is with you, helping you go through those changes. Really, it is a big part about it is letting go and go with the flow. Letting go and being in flow. Okay, so both flowy, like Jen was saying. Okay, and you will be mending your bridges. Mending bridges, you're looking at both sides. So look at their side as well as where you're at, and look, front and back, and being present. That's the other thing that's coming up for me, right? It's okay to have those memories and stuff and looking forward, but be in the present moment. Okay, because you are able to make a difference at this time, even though it's wavy. And this is also my intuitive card, so I feel like there is some intuitive abilities for you. So tap into that, because I think that you're actually going to be able to feel them. Okay, and just proceed softly. Self-care, going forward. Stop and smell the flowers, right? Because right now you're planting seeds. You're planting seeds for something coming that's going to be beautiful. Okay. Karen, did you want to add anything?
I would reinforce some of what Jen said. Being in flow, notice what you notice, and it's okay to occasionally pitch a tent there, but know it's for a finite amount of time, that you're not going to wallow in that for days, weeks, months, and years on end, that you have a finite time of, okay, today I'm just going to notice what I notice, and maybe even journal, write down what you're feeling, what you're thinking, just what flows in. Then when it flows in and out you through the pen and paper, then you can reflect on it, that you're not holding on to it. Because the physics is, if you're feeling this emotion and you push against it, equal and opposite reactions. So all you do is just keep banging your head against the wall with whatever feeling that you're not wanting to feel. So feel it, respect it, honor it, as Jen says, and then write through it, journal with it, and then that allows you to get more into the flow so you can move from that.
Keep in mind too that Summer, I feel as though you're intuitive. So also keep in mind, you don't need to process everyone else's energy, only your own. Okay? Because sometimes we feel the collective. And I think that some of what you're feeling may be that collective energy, which is, we've got a lot going on as a collective right now. So, but we don't, by processing our own and just focusing on our own stuff, that's enough. We make a difference. We make a big difference by doing that. So, Annie has a question. Hormones. Ooh, this is for Karen. Do you have any advice regarding hormones?
Oh, yes. The two quick, easiest fixes ever for you. The first one is lots of water. Your whole body functions well when you are well hydrated. And a misnomer definitely is out there. There's a very small percentage of the population that needs to self-restrict. It would be less than 3% of the people who actually do have high blood pressure. The rest of the world, if you do not have enough salt in your system, your cells and your cell membranes cannot function normally. So you do need some salt. So don't salt restrict. The second thing is breath. We often don't take enough deep breaths to nourish our body. We're breathing because we don't have to think about it, because it's automatic. And now it's time to sit down and think about it. And depending where you are with your hormones and what's going on with your hormones, whether it's peri or postmenopausal, whether it's something related to your thyroid or adrenal glands, maybe it's your pituitary gland, I'm not sure. But some of the female hormonal stuff, when you lean into having that great hydration, amazing breath work, you can resolve a lot of the concerns that are going on. And it's not an overnight fix, but it can be over the span of a few weeks, you can notice a dramatic change in your body. And then the third piece, if you're really to lean into some mindfulness, is write down a list of all the things you're grateful for and in with your body. So that if you're looking at your body and your hormones and I'm a mess and this is awful, well, your body hears that. Your subconscious hears, I'm a mess and I'm awful. And so what does it do? It wants to revolt. So what is it about your body that you love? There's lots of things. You may not be quite aware of them yet. So just take a moment to see, when you reflect on that, what can and does come up for you. Even if it's just one thing, then repeat that one thing over and over and love on that. And then when you do that, more will flow into that and more will flow out of that. And then you'll realize that, wow, like, yeah, my body's good. This is good. There's shifts happening and things are getting into more of a flow, sweet spot of how you would love for your wellness and your well-being to be.
Awesome. Thank you. And Ruth, are there any essential oils that would help support hormonal stuff? You're on mute.
Can you hear me now? No? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
We're good.
It seems to go on mute in 2 spots, so I have to hit both of them. Nothing's ever easy. Anyway, hi, Lady Annie. So I would suggest for the hormones, again, rose. Rose is a great oil for almost anything heart-related, hormone-related. Like, it's just, I love rose essential oil. Never used to, but I do now. Long story. Anyway, also geranium is really good. So if you mix, I would say they're both quite strong. So in a roller bottle, with 10 mils of like olive oil or fractionated coconut oil, I would put probably 1 drop of rose and 2 drops of geranium. And so I'm winging this, if you can tell.
You're tapping into your intuition and your knowledge, your wisdom. It's all good.
Yeah. And I'm kind of feeling like you need something grounding.
Sandalwood?
Yes, sandalwood would work. Any of the woods, cedar wood. And just go with your scent. Like, just smell it, put 1 or 2 drops like 1 drop at a time, and just sniff it. And that's how all the best blends are made. But no, I would say no more than 3 drops of cedar wood, because then you're getting overly diluted, undiluted.
And the other thing to note is, if you don't have these oils and you're looking for blends, Ruth does make custom blends for people.
Yes.
So please reach out if you're looking for that. A big hello to Squidgy and Charlie. We don't have any palm readers. That's one thing we don't have at the moment, I'm afraid. And we're all good. And then Summer responded, thank you so much. I appreciate you all for helping me. I will definitely take your advice. You're all wonderful. Again, thank you very much. And then tons of hearts. So
I'd like to address Annie too. Because when it comes to hormones, stress can have a huge impact on our hormones and can totally throw us into hormonal imbalances. And think about the time that we've just gone through with the pandemic and everything else and what we're coming out of. And now, as women, right, as caregivers, studies have actually shown that this has been even higher stress on us, having to tend to the families, having everybody home all the time. If we are in careers, not being able to do those and having to kind of take back these roles. So again, my question also would be, where are your stress levels and what are you doing to take care of yourself? So I loved what Karen had shared about water and breathing. And that's going to help with stress as well. So breathing, and I loved how Karen said, everybody says, why breathe? Okay, but we as people today take the most shallow breaths and we don't even realize it. Right? And so the difference between neck breathing, chest breathing, and belly breathing, right? And really bringing it in, getting that oxygen to really invigorate all of the cells and then bringing it back out. And doing visualizations with it can be really helpful when it comes to stress reduction, right? So I'm breathing in the clean, fresh air. Maybe it's the essential oils, this healing energy, and I'm bringing it in and I'm having it pool in my body. And as it pools in my body, it's collecting any negative energy I've been holding on to. Everything I've been feeling, it's just collecting it. And then it's just going to whoosh back out of me and I'm going to release all of that negativity, right? And I'm going to bring in some more cleaning energy and letting that fill me through, and the same with the water piece. We are energetic beings and water connects energies. And so whatever it is that we're doing, bringing in that water actually allows any kind of healing that we're doing to ground within us. And so it's an absolutely beautiful thing. I do this breathing exercise. I take a sip of water. I swish it around in my mouth. That really hydrates you even more than just chugging it, right? And then you allow it to come in and just cleanse again, right? So from a very stress perspective, but also biological perspective, hormones can be deeply impacted and it's cyclical, right? Our stress can impact our hormones and get us out of balance. Our hormones become out of balance, we become more stressed. Maybe we're not sleeping as well. We're having hot flashes. We're feeling more moody and irritable, right? Now our stress is increasing. Okay, so now we're having, more imbalance. And so at some point we have to break that cycle. And so doing these practices to work on the stress can also help break those cycles of hormonal imbalances. And if you feel like, you know what, I'm doing all of this and I still don't feel good, go see your doctor. It's okay.
So Annie's actually a yoga teacher too.
Perfect.
So she's into all that breathing and all of that stuff. So this brings us to the end of our show today. So we want to thank everybody for joining us and bringing all of your energy to the show. We're so happy to have had you here. And just to let you know, we will be doing another one in 2 weeks, I should say, on October 28th, all about physical well-being. Okay, so we'll have another set of experts coming in, more of our teachers. It'll be somewhat like this, where we'll have a discussion style, and then we'll also do some questions and answers, either reading or expert advice, depending on what is called for. All right, so we'll just say a quick goodbye. Unfortunately, Karen had a technical issue, I hear, and so she ended up getting cut off. So we'll let you know. So that. Thank you from Karen Stillman, Dr. Karen Stillman, for Baby Making Genius. That's her website. And Jen, do you want to just tell people where you can be found, please?
Sure. Well, I can be found on Twillow Lifestyle as a practitioner and as a teacher. And then I can also be found through my website, which is myholisticself.com or myholisticselfcounseling.com, or on Facebook at Holistic Counseling, Holistic Self Counseling. I never get it right because it's not my actual full name. But if you look me up by my name, you'll find me that way. or you can go through, I'm sure, Tanis's and find me as well. And Monday nights we do Twillow Talk. So
Yep.
you can find me on there, and all of our tags are on there so that I don't have to actually remember them.
Yeah, I think they may be on this as well, actually. So
Perfect.
yeah. And Ruth, can you share with people where to find you for those beautiful oil blends?
My website is My Health and Wellness Corner, all one word. myhealthandwellnesscorner.com. And I think, yeah, that's
Or
it.
Facebook can reach you
Or
on
Facebook. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or if you need to, you can reach out to Twillow Lifestyle.
Yeah.
And we can track
Yeah.
her down for you.
And I have a Facebook group, Essential Truths About Oils Demystified. Anyway.
Beautiful. So thank you, everyone. I'm Tanis Coughlin. I am here we go. Thank you from Annie. Thank you so kindly. Awesome. Yes, the mood, ever evolving. So I'm Tanis Coughlin from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy. This fall Twillow Fusion is brought to you by all of the teachers with the Academy. Please stay tuned at our website, twillowlifestyle.ca, for all of the upcoming classes. We have tons of great stuff coming up. We're working on new programs, and one of the programs that we're working on now to develop it is the Twillow Transformation Track. And so that will certainly speaks to some of the stuff that we were talking about tonight. So stay tuned for that. We have a membership site now, so that can be found at twillowlifestyle.ca as well. And again, beautiful. Thank you for joining us, and we're sending you so much love, all of you. Have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful 2 weeks, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for another fall Twillow Fusion.